thanks for updating the list of who's doing what when. Appreciated that.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom. And we are live. Welcome, everybody. We got a bunch of people in the queue today. So thank you for showing up. Oh, I got to throw some. No, somebody has to throw something on mute. How are the levels? And people in chat, they were saying I was a little low before.
Sound good to me.
Excellent. Sean has sent me a message. He is on his way to logging in. Let me get the whatchamacallit set up and go ahead and start the show, Mac.
All right. Welcome to the Workshop Show. The guy with the microphone and the earphones is my co-host and the producer of the show, Daniel Andrew Boyd. All right. Good, Dan. So look, we are the Workshop Show. This is how the show's going to work out today. The first thing that's going to happen is Dan is going to start with about a 20-minute lesson on stuff to think about when storytelling, right at the top of the show. Next, our crew of storytellers is going to introduce themselves, responding to this prompt, once upon a time, ... And you're welcome in the chat to respond to that prompt as well. Then the storytelling starts. You're going to hear two stories tonight, one from our special guest and one from one of the storytellers on our crew. After each story, our crew and the special guests, if it's one of the crew telling, will share questions, comments, and suggestions to the teller. And we welcome you audience members to participate in that in the chat. And then you will see the workshop magic begin. Using the feedback, you'll see how each teller uses the feedback in their own creative process to transform their story in real time by immediately telling a new version of their original story. Hi, Sean. See you coming in. This is a big ask for a storyteller to immediately tell a new version of a story in front of an audience. But we get together we get to experience the impact of the feedback on the story. Did this new version make the story work better? Were we off base? Did we help the teller get closer to the heart of their story? And then there's something I always forget at this point, but today I have remembered. And that's for you to know that we are all friends here. Our feedback is designed to help the teller experiment with telling the story differently. And the quote criticism or the feedback is not about the teller. It's really just about the story. And it takes courage and an experience of vulnerability to be able to listen to feedback and then immediately try to work to change the story. And we respect that and respect each one of the tellers who's on the show. At the same time, we know that when you go and tell a story like this, there's always a little bit of fear that somebody's going to try and shred you or whatever. And I just want you to know we're not going to let that happen. This is really about appreciating the story and having fun with the story. And at the end of it, it's really up to you, totally up to you. It's your story. You tell it the way you want to tell it. Okay?
Awesome. Yeah.
I do have one more piece here, Dan.
Yep.
Near the end of the show, there's one more piece of special workshop magic that happens. And that's that one of our crew members will retell one of the stories they heard tonight from their own perspective, as though they lived through the original storyteller's experience. Stick around, don't miss that. You'll hear more about that later. And for now, I'll kick it back to you, Dan.
Thank you. And sorry for jumping on that last part. I am Daniel Andrew Boyd, and we are produced by Storyluck, a not-for-profit 501c3, and this is the Workshop Show, and this is the part of the show where I get to teach a lesson on storytelling. Last week, we talked about three things. We talked about Kairos. We're going to talk about Kairos today. We did talk about ethos, logos, and pathos. And we talked about how those three things, if you have too much or too little, they can cause problems where for your listeners. We talked about these things in part because, generally speaking, when you think about them, you're thinking about essays. You have that 5-paragraph structure that you got taught in grammar school or in your first literary courses, where you have the thesis statement, you build off of that, you go after, pick off the objections and say how you would answer them, and then you have your conclusion. Storytelling can be a lot like that. Instead of a thesis, you have a theme. You have something that you want to tell those listeners, that there's a special nugget of truth that they get to walk away with. And that's their reward for listening to this entertaining story. And so you set it up in very similar ways. Ethos, pathos, logos. Logos is logic. Ethos is your credibility, and pathos is basically the story, the emotion that carries you through it. And that can be very strong for people. Today, we're going to talk about Kairos, which is something different, but in the lanes of that. And Kairos is this a little bit amorphous thing, and it's just saying the right thing at the right time. And it's sort of like capturing the zeitgeist of the moment, of the cultural milieu, and you just happen upon it luckily. But I'm going to throw out that you can increase your odds of hitting that luck in various ways. We talk about virality of stories and storytellings and how they pop off. And so to give you one example, I had a friend and he wrote a article. And what he had done, he had this sort of comedy website blog that was just a little thing that he posted to friends and things like that. And what he had done is he had watched the movie Groundhog Day very carefully. And he had counted every day that Bill Murray had gone through over and over again in Groundhog Day. And he sent it out to us, and we all laughed, and we didn't think anything of it. And then months later, on the real Groundhog Day, somebody happened upon this article. And then they tweeted it out. And then somebody famous saw it and they tweeted it out. And then somebody from CNN saw it and they tweeted it out. So then they threw it on Yahoo's top page. And by the end of the day, he had millions of hits to his website, and it went down, and it ended up costing him like 10 grand because he was on this horrible plan because he thought nobody went to his website. And so he got charged for all the overages of people seeing his website and having that load of traffic come to him. The random things, saying the right thing at the right time, you won't always know how to do it. You kind of never do. But there are things you can do to increase it. And that is touching on cultural guideposts. Read your news. Pay attention to what's going on. Have that Christmas story. Have that Thanksgiving story. Have that in your back pocket so that these seasonal things are going to keep coming back, and maybe you're going to be the one who says that emotional thing that the people need. I've got one more anecdote that came from Boom, 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 boom. No. It came from Dorothy Armstrong is who it came from. And it's from Analysis and Critique, How to Engage and Write About Anything. And she had a bunch of cool sort of workshops and essays in that course. But one that she had was about this Kairos thing. And she had a friend who was working in this construction facility, and they had contracted out to these other people, and the other people weren't using to code materials. And so, as is your way, she wrote to HR and compliance, and she wrote her essay. This is why you should change this. And they ignored her. And so she beefed up her essay, as emails are essays in some sort of way when you do these things. And so, okay, this is what I think you guys should do. And you should do it because, these aren't up to code. Even though it's not us, we hold liability for this. And she sends this email out. No response, no movement. They keep using materials that they shouldn't be using. She's going crazy because she's like, this is going to cost us more money to fix in the end. She sends 2 more emails, nothing. She's going to let it go. And around this time, the oil rig off the coast of the Gulf of Mexico blew up, the BP one. And so she wrote a final little article. And what she did is she took the morning's paper and she swapped out her company's name for BP. And she's, it was just the same sort of parallel that she found. BP, we're trying to say that it's not our fault because this was contracted out. These are a third party that runs that, blah, blah, blah. But then when research came out, there were all these emails back and forth of people saying this is a compliance issue. And so she sent that to her boss and she said, this is what I'm thinking about sending to compliance. And it touched him so much because it had that cultural touchstone where he sent it up to the higher ups, and then they sent it out to the entire company, and all of a sudden they have a big meeting and they change everything. And because it can touch, because it becomes a story, because it parallels this thing that other people understand, and there's that sort of connection that happens, you get that Kairos moment. You get that connection to the zeitgeist of what's happening in the world. And boom. Thank you so much. That is the end of the lesson on ethos, pathos, and logos. And next week, we're going to be talking about David Sedaris. TJ does have a link, and he will send that for the course that this was, the Analysis and Critique course. He'll put that into the chat in a little bit. Back to you, Mac. Oh, wait, I gotta unmute you. There we go.
Thank you, Dan. So we have this peculiar way of introducing our crew members and the first introduction for our special guest teller. So if you would all unmute yourself and answer and finish the prompt. Once upon a time.
Once upon a time, I was a little Swiss boy.
Once upon a time, I believed in going with the flow.
Once upon a time, I had a dog sneak into school to hang out with me.
Once upon a time, I was a little red-headed, freckle-faced kid living on 4 Burberry Lane in Great Neck, New York, and I felt like the world was my oyster.
Sean, do you have a once upon a time?
Of course I do. Of course I do. Once upon a time, I had a big, beautiful, curly head of hair. and I smiled with fucking abandon.
Oh. Everyone's is hard to believe.
My sister
Come on.
lives in Great Neck, by the way, Mac.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
We're not finished yet.
Who
You're
are
on
we
mute,
missing?
TJ.
Oh, no, he's not. TJ, are you ready? Oh, you're muted on some other end. It's not on our end. So maybe your mic isn't out.
Okay.
Susan? You can let Susan. So crazy.
Oh, we're muted.
Susan is not muted, but she's also not trying to talk, it seems. Susan? Oh.
Yeah, she is.
It's
muted.
on it's your end.
Catch up with us later.
The internet.
Does that sound okay?
The internet.
Yeah, you guys can jump in. Throw TJ, if you can throw your Once Upon a Time into the chat.
Oh, cool.
Also,
That's
if
one way to do
people
it.
have a Once Upon a Time, I would love to hear it. Who do we have in there? There's some people I don't recognize. Hi, Nisha. I think I know which Nisha that is. Thank you so much for joining us. I don't know who Limited is. Limited, do you have a Once Upon a Time? Oh, Limited did find the link maybe to my friend's article.
Nice.
The website was wolfnards.com. I don't know if he still owns that domain.
If he
All right.
doesn't own it anymore, that sold at a pretty penny.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, great. I was a small boy with a larger than life head. Oh, so many different ways to read that. That's great. Thank you, Limited.
TJ, do we have links disabled for chat? Can they put in links? It looks like Limited is trying to put on a link. Oh. All right. So this is from here. We're going into our storytelling section. Susan, let us know if you can figure out how to fix your microphone situation. It may be a simple unplug and plug it back in or something of that nature. But you can also throw in comments into the chat to keep in touch with us. Noah, are you up for going first today?
You can go first.
Okay.
Are you ready for me?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna try a 99-second version of a story that I told once before here, or tried to. And I think I'm gonna cheat a little bit by throwing out some framing. Which this is a story about my friend David Cook. And one time he asked me, if you could live one moment in your life for all eternity, what moment would that be? And I told him that it'd be sitting on his balcony with him, early coffee and smoking cigarettes and chewing the fat and reading books. So he's a very good friend of mine, even if this story doesn't reflect that well on him. So here goes. The door opens loud. It reverberates. Spencer, professor, pauses. He's explaining how the young men of Weimar carried the horrors of war home and shifted from the light of Impressionism to the imperatives of Expressionism. It doesn't faze Cook. Nothing does. Relax, it's fine. But it isn't fine. 20 minutes into the lecture, my eternally laid-back friend is going to pass 100 empty seats to sit next to me. Everyone is going to know that I am friends with an indecorous person. In any other back, hiding in the shadows, unobtrusively. I'm only sitting in the dense center of this stupid lecture hall because of Cook. Meanwhile, he's taking his sweet time getting to my aisle. He's taking pains to move past everyone as he can in my row, our row. But there's just not enough room for a seated student, their desk, a cook, his gutchel, the paper tucked under his arm, and the travel mug of coffee tenuously satchel. Spencer may be talking up front, but Cook us in real time why you sit in the closest seat to the door when you roll in late. Finally, he flops down in his seat like a man who doesn't mind breaking a few, which he has. He says hi. I stare straight ahead, and I respond through gritted teeth. As his coup de grace, he takes the eternal student paper from under his arm. He shakes it out like it's the Wall Street Journal and sticks it in front of his stupid face to read. Spencer stops. And that is the story.
Well done. Well done. I gotta rearrange you. Here we go. How did that feel to you?
It felt okay. My concerns on doing this one is, or doing it was, one, I wrote it all out and it probably sounded a little like that. And I've tried to, I'm kind of at the point where maybe people can point out where it sounds a little mechanical or whatever. And yeah, I feel like we're always talking about an emotional arc and all that. I don't know if there's one there. So that's another thing that I'd be happy to hear about. And then, of course, anything else.
Okay. That is good. Bum, bum, bum. Yeah. What are thoughts that people have?
No, thank you so much. I loved that story the first time around, and I enjoyed it this time around too, because it was the aim of the story to be shorter. I feel like some of the words you used to describe the horrendous situation were just like right on point. Like the coup de grace, like the killing blow of this guy, like mushing past everybody in the aisles. Like, okay, yep, I got that. The tenuousness of the mug attached to the bag. And it's like, okay, that's another issue waiting to happen on top of everything. So I thought you did a really good job of using your word choice so that like the editorial was right there.
Thank you.
You did a great job of the stakes. I mean, you really made this story about you and your response to Cook. And I think that was important. The one thing when you told it a longer version, I got the scene. But as I listened to this, I didn't necessarily clearly get the scene right at the beginning, right at the beginning. And I just might have been a momentary lapse on my part. But how to really get us in that lecture hall with you.
Yeah, when cutting it down, I had all kinds of things, but it's just 9 seconds is so short. It's so short. Who knew?
Yeah. With your long intro, I was a hair off of hitting the clock, and you were at 137, which is a hair under 99, but I think I was a hair late. So I think you would have been at 145, something like that.
I had him at 140.
Okay.
I'm always timing, bro. You know that. You know that.
Yeah, the intro it wasn't part of it. It was something I was thinking about framing it with because there's a funny line from Cook of what his moment would be, but it just doesn't fit the time.
How did you feel about the ending, Noah?
Yeah, that is something. I don't know how to end that story because, yeah, in real life, the class went on. So from my experience, like, I don't know. So I just sort of left it there at, right at the climax, really. Mm-hmm. No.
Did in your other version of the story, did the professor say something to him?
Yes.
When he
yeah.
So just one idea is that you might add something like, and we all waited for Spencer to say something. I don't know. Again, you're really having to be economical here, but that tension, to put a tension in there, and maybe it's just understood. But when you described Spencer really well before, in your longer version, he was not going to put up with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I liked the ending. I thought that was a zinger. You died, sort of as Kay pointed out. I think that there is a question of the reading nature of it, right? Like even the fact that you were reading it, but even because it's so written, the language is so precise, it's going to be difficult to not memorize those lines because it's so specific. And then you lose some of that sense of, oh, this is off the cuff that people like.
No, but
well,
Dan, can I?
For the second telling, I'm gonna not look out, so we'll see how that goes as well.
Yeah,
maybe
jump in.
Yeah, but I think if and when you're able to learn it so well, like you might with a monologue in a play, you can then play with it. It's in that middle ground of I've memorized it, but I don't know it so well that it feels read, whether you're reading or not. But I think if you get to the point where it's just so in you, then you can play, right? And you can, what's the word I'm looking for, Dan or Mac or someone else, where it's, I don't know, it's that space in which you're able to allow us to believe that it's not memorized, even though it's memorized. There's a word for that. That's the space. That's that beautiful space where we give you that latitude, I don't know what the word is. I'm not a fancy man. I have no hair.
Sean, this is like a real specialty for you, the 99-second story. So we're really interested in hearing your feedback for Noah.
Well, it's all right. Interesting. As I'm the man who's going to get feedback in about 14 minutes. The only thing I would say, the first thing that came first, awesome, and love that people are trying it. You don't get the before I tell the story, you need to know this. You don't get that. You have. I believe ideally you need to try to either put that in the story, or it doesn't matter. But the 30 seconds or 20 seconds beforehand. At least the way we've been doing our events, and there's a lot of ways to do it. Can you do it in 99 without any pre or post? And it stands on its own. That would be a challenge I would.
Yeah. Does he need that?
Right.
That background.
And he may not.
Yeah, I kind of think that it didn't do anything for me. but I also already knew it because he had worked on it. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Internet's been really good today for us. You seem way better though, Noah.
Yeah, I usually put myself on my hotspot, but I forgot today. So.
Yeah.
So now you're in the hot. Now I was just going to bring in from the chat. NLSC6 said, "Is the word Sean was looking for extemporaneous?"
Thank you.
Yeah,
Ooh.
there you go. So it sounds extemporaneous.
Yeah.
That's what you want. Boom, boom, boom.
It takes a village.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm up
to find the word. Yeah.
Since it's a 99, I might have you tell it 3 times. Yeah, let's do it.
I'd love to hear it again.
Yeah, let's hear it with let me highlight you. Let's hear it now that you're synced up properly and without the reading.
Without the reading. All right. All right. So the door opened loud. It reverberated through the lecture hall. People noticed that my friend was slipping in late. Up front, Dr. Spencer was telling us about how the soldiers of World War I came back, and in their art, they switched from impressionism and focusing on the light to focusing on the imperative of expressing themselves and what they had seen. It didn't faze Cook. Nothing phases him. His catchphrase is, it's fine, relax. But I can't relax. It's not going to be fine because my buddy has just walked into class late, and I know he's going to walk past 100 empty seats in this giant lecture hall just so he can join me in the middle where I've chosen to sit. Not because I enjoy being in the middle. No, I'm one of those students that hides in the back so that I won't be called on. There's no attention on me. I'm a little rat in the dark. I don't enjoy being the focus of attention. But Cook is slowly making his way to me, and he has to squeeze by every person in my row, and there is not enough space. There's not enough space for a student, their desk, Cook's gut, Cook's bag, Cook's newspaper tucked under his arm, and his mug of coffee precariously clipped to the side of his satchel. But finally, he makes it to me, and he flops down like a man who isn't afraid that a chair will break under him, though many have. So I'm mortified because David has just taught a master class in how not to enter a class. You're supposed to take the closest seat to the back and silently join because you have sinned and you're not deserving of causing a ruckus. But David isn't done. He's got one more act in his show. Having seated, he turns to me. He says, "How are you doing?" I'm just looking straight ahead. I through gritted teeth, I'm like, "Hi, David." And he takes that ratty student paper and he shakes it out in front of his face. And he just starts reading in the middle of class after he's caused all this commotion. And the professor stops, and I die of secondhand shame.
Well done.
That was really hard. I did not have that memorized in any way.
Good job, man.
That was a great 3-minute story. Good job. All right, now you're in the hot seat. Yeah, it actually was more lyrical than I expected it to be. I felt like you have those lines pretty well, but it did get way longer. Yeah, I think you don't need the preamble.
Okay.
Hearing it this time, I want just one more piece of you in the shame.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it can be that first line with like something like, I know he's coming. Something of that nature. And then the door opens. I'm in this lecture hall.
Yeah.
And I think something small like that would be enough that we know this is what is propelling the story. You do get there. And in this version, you hit it multiple times when you said it. I'm the little rat. I don't want this. This is coming. This is causing me anxiety. You said it like 3 or 4 ways. I think repeated throughout, and you can just choose whichever one of those you like the best. And keep that. Yeah. Pushing it out to other people.
Yeah. So Noah, I like that a lot better, maybe because it was 3 minutes, but you were much more dynamic. But I'm thinking, okay, what can you cut out of it? And what can you add that might help us? So I think one thing that could help us is call him David Cook, because you call him David sometimes, you call him Cook sometimes. So it's one more word. And the other thing is, I think you can really, I almost imagine you going down and taking things out. Like when you say people noticed, yes, of course they noticed. Maybe you can knock that out. And when you say he was going to do one more act, you can leave those kind of parenthetical things out and just let him do it. I think you've got us. You've got our attention. We're wondering, what is this guy going to do next? And I personally like the ending, but I think you can play with that either way. You've got lots of tension there. It's a great story.
Yeah, that's a question I have for everybody in the crew. What do you think about that ending? Does anybody have a strong feeling one way or the other? Susan?
I liked the ending. I liked it a lot. Yeah.
Do you like it better when he's sort of has an ender, or when it ends on I died?
I like the second storytelling better. But I'm a little biased about death, so I might not be a good one.
That's a great line. I'm biased about death. I'm still feeling that.
Sean,
I'm working that shit in my story tonight. I don't know how, but that's how much I like that line.
Well, Susan told a story last week about how she almost died, a very personal story at the hands of her husband. So, yeah.
Don't mean to make light, but it is a strong line, for real.
Yeah, Noah, how are you feeling?
Yeah, for me, I'm just not going to be able to like tell it the same way twice, just because it's not in there enough. But I'm happy to try again.
Do you think you could try? What are we cutting in this second version to get it down to 99? I think one lines for the thing, and just knowing now that the version you told was about a little under 3 minutes might be enough. Do you want to give? Oh, Kay, do you have something?
I was just going to say, I vote for less information about expressionism and bring back the coup de grace, because then, and then you died.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just for that, I think those are good. Yeah, I'm gonna highlight you one more time, and you can see me. I will flash you. Oh yeah, with a wave.
Okay.
I'll flash you with a wave. So you know when you've hit 99.
Okay. All right. So, am I ready to start?
Yep.
All right. My screen just went. Okay. So I know he's coming because he's always late. And sure enough, the door opens with a loud noise. And the professor pauses from telling us about Weimar Germany and the artists of the time. It doesn't faze David. Nothing does. His motto is relax. It's fine. But I can't relax, and it isn't fine because I know he's going to walk past 100 empty seats just to get to the middle of the class and sit down next to me, and everyone's going to watch. And I'm only sitting in the middle because of David. Usually I'm a little rat in the back, hiding away from the teacher's attention. And that's the kind of student that I am. But not David. He's trying to take care to squeeze by everyone in my row. But there's just not enough room for a student, their desk, a David, his gut, his satchel, the newspaper tucked under his arm, and his coffee mug, which is precariously clipped to his belt. But he does finally reach me. He flops down in his chair, and he turns to me and he says, "Oh, hey, Noah." And I'm mortified. I'm staring straight ahead. Through gritted teeth, I say hello to this kid. And of course, he proceeds to take that ratty newspaper from under his arm. He shakes it out like Wall Street Journal, and he sticks it in front of his stupid face. And Spencer stops, and I die of secondhand embarrassment.
Coup de grace. That was great. That was great. You like cut it all down, put it together. Boom, 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 boom.
I could not see you, so I didn't know if you flashed me or not. So I was even rushing a little more.
Yeah. It ended for me at 1:46.
Okay.
So real close. Yeah. I think that was a good telling, and that the three there are things that got better every time, and that it's clearly this works as a 99.
Cool. Yeah.
Does anybody have any final parting thoughts before we move on to Sean?
Well, I just want to say I kind of got it about this thing. It's action, and then it's you sitting there still feeling. And by going back and forth, it's like this thing is coming. The shit is going to hit the fan or whatever. Here it comes, and you're sitting there. So, that whole business of his behavior and then what's going on inside you is just perfect. And you can keep playing with that till you get it just the way you want it. It's great.
Yeah, it creates that tension.
Yeah, it's like like stories of a car wreck in slow motion, when you can feel it coming, and then it's great.
Yeah, thank you.
Boom, boom, boom. All right, I have highlighted you, Sean, and whenever you're ready.
All right, am I starting?
Yeah,
we're good. Cool, man.
Good.
All right. So it is December 2015. I'm getting audio feedback, Dan. Let me know if it's cool. I'll start again. Is that cool? You guys hear me? Okay, give me a thumbs up. Yeah?
Yeah, start again, though.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. We'll work it out. It is late December in 2015, and I'm in Cusco, Peru. I had been living in Buenos Aires, Argentina for almost 2 years. I was ready to go back to the States. But before I go back, I want to make a pit stop to Peru, to Cusco, to Machu Picchu. And I'm doing this alone. It's late December. And I'm at a Starbucks in Cusco. And I'm sitting next to a girl, drinking my coffee. She's pretty. Now, normally I wouldn't try to make small talk or any kind of talk with a pretty girl sitting next to me. It's really just not my style. But I do. I say hello. She's reading a book, and I ask, what are you reading? And she says, it's poetry. I said, poetry? Well, can I take a look? And she says, well, do you speak or understand Spanish? I said, yeah, of course I do. Yeah. Just because this is a book of poetry and it's my poetry, but it's written in Spanish. So no problem. So I take the book and I'm looking at it for a few moments. And she looks at me and she says, you have absolutely no idea what you're reading, do you? I say, no, I don't. I've learned a little bit of Spanish living in Argentina, but I don't know enough to understand this poetry that you've written. But we start talking and we laugh. And after about an hour, we exchange phone numbers. Now it's late December and now it's New Year's Eve, December 31st. I'm alone in Cusco, Peru. And I've spent a lot of New Year's Eves alone. And I don't want to spend another one alone. And I know what's going to end up happening is I'm going to go to this bar. It's a bar where the expats go in Cusco. I've already figured it out. I know where it is. I know what's going to be happening. There's going to be some sports on one of the televisions and maybe some carnival type thing on the other one. And there'll be some expats. There'll be some locals. Well, that's where I am. It's about 7 p.m. on New Year's Eve. And I'm on my second pint. And I'm thinking, I should text Adriana. That's her name. But she's not going to text back. I mean, Adriana's from this area. She's from Cusco. So, I mean, she's not going to she's busy. But I say, you know what? Fuck it. And I text her. And she texts back. And she writes, hey, Sean. It was really nice meeting you the other day. She says, do you want to hang out? Do I want to hang out? Yeah. So I write back and I text her. I say, well, why don't you come down to the bar? We'll have a beer and we'll take it from there. She says, no, you come here. Well, I said, where are you? She goes, well, I'm with my family. Now, Adriana is probably around 30, but it's Peru. Things work a little bit differently there. And she lives with her family. She says, come to my home. It's up in the hills. She gives me directions. There's no other way to get there. I have to walk. Her directions are okay. I'm trying to figure out how to go there because I have to go up this sort of large hill, like a mini mountain, and then trying to traverse across this space and get up, and it's getting to be kind of dark out. And I get there, and it's clear I've made it. It's her house. She described it. And I'm thinking to myself, it's New Year's Eve, and I am in Cusco, Peru. It doesn't get any better than this. And she welcomes me and we kiss on the cheek and she introduces me to her family and a few of her friends. And we spend a few hours together and we're dancing and we're drinking and we're eating. And it just doesn't get any better. Like I'm amazed that I put myself in a position. I can't believe that I'm able to enjoy New Year's Eve like this. And it's getting towards midnight and she's outside and she says, hey, I want to tell you something. I said, what's that, Adriana? She says, well, I asked my parents if you could stay over, but they said no. You asked your parents if I could stay over. So this is another move that I would never normally make, but it's clear to me like I'm going in for the kiss. It wasn't on my radar at all, but now that you've asked your parents if I could stay over, whether they said yes or no is irrelevant. And we kiss outside our house. And it's a long kiss. It's a nice kiss. It's soft. And she takes my hand and she starts walking. Now, her English is almost perfect. She's almost fluent. But every now and then she mixes in a little bit of Spanish. She says, venga aquí. And she takes my hand and we're walking. And we walk about 5 minutes. It's it's dark. It's about 11 p.m. We're in the middle of Cusco on this hill. And I'm thinking, it just doesn't get any better than this. And she points to what appears to be like this large rock formation with this hole in it. I guess it's like a cave. And she says, that's a special place. It's a place for the gods. And I kind of roll my eyes a little bit like, okay, yeah, place for the gods. But I'm feeling good because I'm going to go and she takes my hand and we're going to walk into this cave. Not a cave. It's just imagine a rock formation, but there's a hole in it. Like you go inside it. And I'm imagining that we're going to go in this cave and it's going to become midnight. And I'm going to be kissing this beautiful Peruvian poet. We get inside the cave and she starts to take her clothes off. She takes her clothes off. And then she starts to take my clothes off. And we spend the better part of an hour in that cave with only our socks on. It is as good as it gets. And every time I think it can't get any better, it keeps getting better and better and better. And we finish and we walk outside the cave hand in hand. And she says, good night. And that's the last thing I want to do is not be with her. But I know I can't stay with her. Her family said no. It's the wee hours of the morning. It's really dark outside. And she kisses me on the cheek. She had a really good time. Get home safely. And I said, Adriana, I don't think I know how to get back to where I'm staying. And she said, well, just do the opposite of what you did when you came here. You'll be okay. And she says something in Spanish. And she smiles. And she walks away. Well, I find my way back home where I'm staying. And I have a really nice sleep. It was a great night. But I'm not done. I didn't want to spend New Year's Eve alone. But now I want to see Adriana more. I want to read her poetry. I want to go back to that cave. Maybe I want to go with her. Well, we can go to Machu Picchu together. And so I text her. Hey, I had a really good time. Really enjoyed meeting your family. Of course, there was the cave. Heart. Nothing. So later that day, I text back again. Hey, Adriana, did you get my text? Let me know if you're around. The thing is, I so want to be the guy who could just have a really good night and move on with it, you know? Like just get on with my week. I'm going to be in Peru and Machu Picchu for another week or so and just get on with it. It was a great night. Love meeting you, Adriana. Bye-bye. Great. Bye. Good. I'm going to go to Machu Picchu alone. That's it. But I'm not that guy. I'm not. And the next day I text her again and she texts back. Hey, Sean, I had a really good time with you. It was a lot of fun. Thanks for hanging out. I've got some friends coming into town, so I'm going to be really busy, but have a nice time in Cusco. And I was imagining hanging out with her in that cave, maybe reading her poetry with her. Maybe she was like translating it and again, going to Machu Picchu, but she wasn't imagining that at all. And so that next week I do go to Machu Picchu alone. I came to Cusco alone and I'll leave alone. And I wish I'd spent more time with her, this pretty Peruvian poet. But that was one hell of a New Year's Eve. And it doesn't get much better than that. Thank you.
That was good.
Who was that?
That was TJ.
TJ.
That was good. Yes.
Limited Power wants to hear you say that is a true story.
Yeah, totally true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I you know what? Can I add something to that?
Yeah.
When I write a draft of a story and then I'm writing and then you know, sometimes I find that like I do stretch the truth a little bit as I write it or redo it. But I'm checking myself. Yeah. In fact, it was better than it was much better than what I said. It was fucking amazing. until it wasn't.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah. Yeah. People bring us. This does not feel rough.
Felt rough to me, bro.
No, it was great. There's lots of details. It's very tenderly told. The performance was really good. I don't know. Can I switch people out? No. What else can I talk about? I loved her saying Benga Key. The story is really cool. I don't know if you've ever gotten this note before, but there was some tension from me, and I thought you were going to get robbed.
Oh yeah.
I
I've
don't
never
know.
shared the story, but I don't think I've really even shared the story. So I had no notes. You're the notes. You guys are the notes.
Wait a minute, Sean, you got kind of robbed.
Yeah,
Oh.
I guess it's like it could be part of the story because that is a legitimate thing. But yeah, I chose not to put it there, but I guess it's there a little bit. Yeah.
So I got a question for you, Sean. For you, what is the heart of this story?
It's a great question. The heart of the story, I think, and I'll use, I'll answer it however the languages I can find around that. And it was this feeling of not wanting to be alone and having this like opportunity, this experience where it was so the opposite of that. Like the opposite of being alone is what I experienced, but it was for a few hours, right? And it wasn't enough. I couldn't let it go. I wanted more. You know, I'm very open about my prior, like I had a cocaine habit. Same. It's never enough. I want more. And with her, I was so wishing it could, there was like I'm sorry, and if this is too much of an answer for you.
Keep going.
Yeah, like I was split. I wanted to be this guy, this person, where it was like in my perception, it's just like there are these people. I'll say guys just because it's sort of apples to apples, where they can have these experiences, and they're like, whatever, that was great. On to the next person or the next experience. But I was like, nah. And then, but she was that way, which fucked me up. You know, and which I don't really share much in the story. I'm glad to share more if you. It was really hard. You know,
Yeah,
it was very difficult when she blew me off, and I managed. Yeah, it was really, really hard. I'd like that to come through a little bit more in the story, maybe.
Hey,
Yeah,
Sean.
I think. Go ahead.
Question from the chat. So NLSC6, I always fuck that up, asks, did you look up her poetry later on?
Give me 8 seconds.
He's gonna go get it. Thank you for the question.
Annotated.
I would never
Thank you
normally
for the
do this,
question.
but this is the book of poetry we're talking about.
Oh, clutch.
Wow.
She gave it to I like that was my gift, other than the memories, which I would never normally do in a story. You don't need to know the extra stuff, right? You don't need to know what she looked like, and but yeah, no, she gave me the poetry book, and so yeah, I didn't need to look it up. I had it right in front of me. I still don't understand most of what it's in there, though. You know.
Did she really blow you off? Is the question from Limited Power.
Well,
Clearly,
if there's if well, she absolutely
No
didn't
one will
want to
fake
see
that.
me again. I don't know if you define that as blowing someone off, because in her mind, it probably wasn't blowing me off. It was just I had a good
You
night.
had a good time. Yeah.
Right. And
Give you
there
that
was,
once in a lifetime experience.
yeah, it was, you know, when you're in an experience and you're like, man, this is happening. And then the second part of that is like, I actually helped make this happen. Like I engaged with her in that Starbucks of all places, right? Had I not done that, well, this night doesn't happen.
Right.
Yeah.
So Sean, when you talk about the heart of the story, I was thinking about how the story ended. For me, what got me really intrigued is what you just said. I'm not that kind of guy. You know, I wish I was that kind of guy sometimes, but I'm not. But then when you said it was really hard for me, you know, and so somehow maybe being able to be more vulnerable, how hard it was, and how much you didn't want to. I mean, I've been in situations where I tried to move on with something, but this magnet kept drawing me back to what could have been or what I wanted more of, you know? So, yeah.
The question becomes how, right? And when telling stories, how to convey that. That's the challenge. Because I can just say, I really felt this way, but that's not, you know, like, how do you do it? That's the craft of it, which is always challenging.
Do you have moments like, you'd have Machu Picchu? I've never extraordinary experience from what people say, but did you, you know, as you were doing one thing, did you feel that pull back towards her? How did it color subsequent experiences? Is any of that, is there anything that would help us see a bit, just even touching on your struggle?
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things you don't really want to admit, right?
Why?
Why? No, I'm happy to admit it to you all. And in the world of story, typically I wouldn't be so quick to share with strangers that for a week in Cusco, Peru, where like, hey, most people would love to go to Machu Picchu, right? I would imagine. And the only thing I was thinking about was her, and that she wasn't texting me back. I am in Machu fucking Picchu.
Yeah.
I am not looking at the mountains or the horizon or the valley. I'm thinking of Adriana.
Yes.
And knowing like I'm not going to see her.
Right. And probably none of us could relate to that, Sean. Okay. And then you're aware of it also. You're like, so I know that I'm going to have memories of Machu Picchu. I don't want the memories to be like this. I want them to be like, hey, and I just couldn't, you know, I mean, I just wanted to be in the cave with her. I just wanted to be in the cave with her. That was it. Yeah.
I just wanted to be in the cave.
Yeah. So I've got a question for you. We saw basically 2 or 3 texts. A lot of people in this situation would be sending like 100 texts.
Yeah.
How much self-control did you have?
How do you define self-control?
Well, how many like
you got no
between responses?
Yeah. The texts that I sent, I think it's probably one of those things I'm not exactly sure of the exact number, you know. I remember it being a handful, not many. And I remember how difficult it was for me not to have the phone just on my face, just waiting. And then I remember seeing her text and like, it was like way better than Machu Picchu.
Sean, can I ask?
Picchu! People pay thousands of dollars to go to Machu Picchu. It's like once in a lifetime. I want to get a text response from a girl I just met. It would have been way better.
Right.
Okay.
Sean, are you a phone person? Would you say that normally you're glued to your phone?
Not glued, but more than I'd like to be. Yeah.
So at the time that you were exploring South America, would you say that like, okay, like you're really primed for this trip and you really want to see everything and you're like excited about that versus you're in your phone normally?
There's a long answer and a short answer. I mean, I was coming off of living in Buenos Aires and then going on a little bit of a travel, knowing I'm going to go back to the States and not really, there's a lot kind of going on in my head. So the trip to Cusco / Machu Picchu would have never been like wanderlust, and like it would have always been sort of had this weird darkish edge to it. But
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm answering your question, but
You are. Thank you. I'm just going to put that out there. You said something that was perfectly encapsulating when you said, when you want to retell this story, you want to bring out more of like the emotional angst of not being able to connect with her again. And you said, here's this vista on the mountaintop,
right.
and all I want is like my phone to, be on my face. I want a text from this girl. There you go. That's it. Like we can feel that.
And Kay, but again, I don't know if this is part of the story. And knowing I don't want to be that way. There's part of it where I'm like, Sean, dude, like it's a girl. Relax. Get on with it. You had a good night. Why are you so fucking weird? What's up with you? Like you're a grown man. Blah 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 blah. And that there was ongoing angst that I could never escape until there's a coda to this story that I'll tell you another time. But yeah.
So can I just say one thing here before
we need to start. We got 5 minutes and then we'll start sort of planning it out.
Sean, I think there's a whole series of stories where the traveler in the wilderness meets this goddess and has this experience. And I think what you all you have to do, I think, is just build up. You just really have us be in the experience with this woman, which you did.
Yeah.
And then just really be in the experience of afterwards. And you were bewitched. You were, in fact, you know what I mean? And that's okay.
Yeah. No, anyway, it's way better than okay, Mac.
Yeah.
So
for a few hours, magical.
Yeah. I want to think of some stuff and just think about plotting out. There's a couple of things that I've heard here. It almost feels like, right, there's two wants that you don't get. One is her attention. Yeah. And the second one is for you to not want it the way that you do. I want to say I don't know how to phrase this, but it makes total sense to me. And I feel like people are sort of talking about it in the chat too. It's like how real it seems real when you're saying it, but it surprises me. It seems like one of those things where this is what society thinks men should be like, but we aren't.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Mm-hmm. And you're sort of saying, I wish I was this fake projection of a man.
Well,
he just doesn't care and could have. Yeah.
That's a fair. I don't know if I'm necessarily sort of being like, I wish I were like that image of the guy who doesn't care. I just didn't. That's partially accurate, but it's also just I just didn't want to be so consumed,
right?
Especially by somebody who I don't think wanted the consumption.
Right.
I mean,
that's good clarification.
I'm getting amped up just talking about this experience with her.
Yeah, I can tell.
I meant, and then who asked for the damn book? Because I'm looking at her now, man.
Yeah.
God damn.
Can you? Is there a way to link it?
Her book?
Is this book online or anything? Is it findable?
I mean, it is now.
It is now. Yeah. But if you type out the Spanish, we've got some.
Where do I do that?
Who would if you send it to me, I'll throw up a link, and we know NL.
I don't know if this is beyond locally published stuff, y'all, but I'll send it to Dan. Yeah.
Yeah.
How long ago was this?
2006 years ago.
Okay.
That's it.
The 2006 years ago.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's COVID years.
Yeah.
Okay, so wants attention, doesn't want to want it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a long. I really liked this version, so I feel weird playing with it, even. But it's a
It felt
long build
to
up.
me as I was reading it, as I was not reading, as I was telling it. It was like it felt for me. You'll tell me if you feel differently. A little bit like long and like, what's happening, dude? Is something happening here? What's happening in the story? Like it's I don't know how it felt.
I'm also gonna throw out somebody in chat from Chicago, MHK Chicago, said that your podcast is incredible and that they really like it. And I'm gonna throw out to the people who are watching, if you have not smashed that follow button on Twitch, please do so. It's a big deal for the algos to know that every time we have a show, somebody's hitting the follow button. Thank you very much. And then after this, we're going to be hanging out in Discord if people want to talk to us directly. What else? But we're gonna start talking about the structure of it. We can rearrange where you start. Right now, it's just like completely linear.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So I have a suggestion for that.
Okay.
Do you have one, Dan? You want to put out there?
I'll let you go.
So, if you want to give equal weight to how you felt at Machu Picchu, you could start there.
Mm-hmm.
You could describe that here you are at Machu Picchu, but you're not really there. Mm-hmm. And then you could ease into this other story for a while and then come back if you needed to. You could go back and forth. And just one idea.
Yeah.
You could start there.
Yeah. I have a suggestion. So definitely, back and forth. Oh crap, my screen just froze. Definitely back and forth. In the beginning of the story, before going to the cave, when you were saying doesn't get any better than this, you gave like a long example explaining how it was, and then you kind of like repeated that information. So cutting that part down would be helpful in the long.
Well, can you say that again, TJ?
Yeah. So it was a part where you were explaining it doesn't get any better than this before you got to the cave. When you were with her, you repeated yourself at least 2 or 3 times explaining how it doesn't get any better than this. Say it doesn't get any better than this example, move on.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it doesn't get better than this is a really interesting theme, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, what does that mean? And now that we know the drug thing, which isn't in there, you didn't make the parallel in the story itself. There's something that a friend of mine once said, where he was like, in the process of taking drugs, you never want to do the best thing that you're ever going to do for the rest of your life. And it almost feels, the way you tell this story, that you've got a little bit of that fear or anxiety about this. And I don't know.
I mean, when you say that, so if I were to say to you, in some respects, it was arguably like maybe the best few hours of my life. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it kind of was.
Sure.
I don't know how it gets better.
Yeah.
You know that feeling you have when you're like, this is just fucking, it just is that good. That's how I felt. So what do I do, guys?
Yeah,
Should I
that's
just say it
hard.
was really, really, really good, like 36 times in my story? Just say it over and over again. Eventually, you'll get it. Really, really.
No,
really.
no, but I think it's the dynamic.
What would have happened if I had seen her again?
Okay. Yeah.
Imagine that. Like I didn't see her again, right?
All right. But we got to focus on the story. So
Yeah.
there's different parts. The other place you can start, I think, is in the cave.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
And I am less interested in that place to start it. So let's talk about starting on Machu Picchu.
Okay.
And it's like, I'm on Machu Picchu. You can describe how beautiful it is. Or the other answer is, I don't remember. Right? There could be that, like, it is a haze to me. I should be remembering whatever. But the thing that I remember about Machu Picchu is clutching my phone. And then you can do the flashback.
Yeah.
And what do you think that it would be? Would it be to the first meeting? Do we need to go?
Do we even need the first meeting?
There's something.
Yeah.
The hard part is there's something about the progression that we get out of this, and I don't want to lose it.
Yeah.
Is that this is a romantic thing and we all believe it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's something to play with if we take it out and we go straight to her family's house.
It wouldn't
yesterday,
make it would be
I'm at this woman's house.
You would need right. So if you don't start in the chronological beginning, then you run the risk of bouncing around into different times of when it gets tricky, right?
Yeah.
If you start in the middle and go back to the beginning, if you don't go back, then you're going to be really
Well, this is part of what I think we're in this version. If you go to her house, I think we're cutting a ton and to see how it feels. And you try to imbue that sense of like romanticism by leaning into this idea of family and that's a big deal for you. And that could be a big deal, I think, for a large swath of the audience. Like, she introduced you to her family. Like, that's a step for most people. And you can relate that and be like, it wasn't a step for her.
It was nothing for her.
Yeah. Is it true that it's a step? It would be a step for you to introduce someone to your family?
It's beyond a step.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
Right. So I think that would go a long way for us to understand it. Where your headspace is.
Yeah. Well, so does that run the risk though of me? Because the family felt like it was. I don't feel like that's the center though. But a couple people have mentioned that, so I'm not averse to trying or playing with the family idea. I was more like, it wasn't like, oh, she's introducing me to her family, she must really like me. It was just more like, holy shit. Like, I don't know. It's hard to put the words to it. Unfortunately, stories contain words, right?
Right. Yeah. MHK Chicago. Yeah, he might have been blocked by the family. They were like, we didn't like that guy. Don't see him again.
Maybe. Right. Exactly.
But also, she was in that situation where she knew, right? She had met people who were traveling through So
Yeah.
there's only so much
This
she can handle.
day, it's a tender subject. But yes, she had met, I'm sure, men
Well, not
traveling through. Yes, I wasn't
not in
the
that
only
way, but
one, Dan.
that's not how I meant it.
Yeah. But I wasn't.
Just that she was under. She knew what she knew more than you did what she was getting herself into because she had seen
Way
it
more.
before, whether she had lived it.
Yeah,
who knows?
way more. She knew exactly what she wanted, and she got it, and that was it. That was all it was. Done. I was a fucking basket case.
I
got something I knew I wanted, and then I got all crazy about it. You know.
So, just for playing with it, so we can figure it out and get you to tell the second time. Machu Picchu. I'm in her house. Cave. And then what? Then can we end it there?
Oh man!
And then it gets really slow, and you're like, "Can we end it there?" Where you're like, "How does it get better? How does it get better? How does it get better?" And we somehow remember the beginning, so that we know that it doesn't get better.
Huh.
So you got to imbue us with the real end of the story in that beginning. So we know you somehow you fit in the line. What was the line you from the last story that we wanted to repeat about death? What was Susan's line?
What is ask Susan? She's here.
Susan, do you remember what you said?
I'm biased with death.
Biased by death.
Something like that.
There it was. Yeah.
I'm biased about death.
I'm biased about death. I'm biased about love. Something. No,
I couldn't get it to work. But I think that is a little bit. We might have you play twice with this opening scene and just do the Machu Picchu.
All right.
Just start it there and let's see if we can figure it out. Like, and the answer is that this is what we're trying to do is get this to be the end. We're starting with the end. And so when we get to the best part, we remember what the end is because we already saw it.
Okay. All right, let's play with that, right?
Yeah. So yeah, just give it a try. To paint that Machu Picchu scene.
All right. Yeah, I'm not much.
And that's all you're gonna do, and then we'll take a breather and talk about it.
Yeah.
Just the Machu Picchu.
All right. So I'm on a train that's making its way through these mountains in Peru towards Machu Picchu. This is a place that people come all over the world, come every year, all the time, nonstop to check out. It's one of these great, amazing places in the world that people, it's like a bucket list. They just want to see it. I'm one of those people. I've been living in Argentina for a couple of years, and now I'm here and I am at Machu Picchu, and I'm expecting this to be magical and mystical, a place of the gods, because it is. And I make my way up, and there's people everywhere, but I'm alone. And that's okay. I do what I'm supposed to do. I stay in, and I get to the place in which there's this like gate, and you're supposed to go through the gate, and then you're actually like at Machu Picchu, the place in which it's just supposed to be like mind blowing. It's supposed to, everything I've read about it, you know, you look across the horizon and you see the sculpture and the architecture and just the enormity of it. It's astounding. And I'm fucking miserable. I'm walking along this path and I want to feel great because I'm at Machu fucking Picchu. And I can only think of one thing, and it's not this place. It's nothing mystical. It's nothing. It's not the mountains. It's not the greenery. It's not the architecture. It's not the history or this insane horizon. It's none of that. I'm just thinking about a girl. That's my beginning.
Yeah.
It got a little intense there, huh?
That was good. I really liked that. I feel like it can work. I think we got to, with this idea for it, we've got it. I don't know, like the words that I'm looking for isn't dark, but we got to know that it never happens again. Right? I think you have to say the line, I'm thinking about this girl that I am never going to see again.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Because you need the audience to know in the beginning how it ends.
Right. For
So
this framework.
Yeah. Sure.
And the other thing I would say is, I think with time and like writing it out in this version, the place of the gods, find out the names of those gods and come up with a couple of clear, crisp lines that are just memorized lines, not like the whole thing, but like one or two where you're describing in real good detail.
Yeah, because I was also super repetitive there. Right. It, but yeah.
What does anybody have anything real quick?
Yeah, I got a quick one.
Yep.
I think you should give her a name. Her name,
Adriana.
I'm thinking of Adriana. Yes, she is the one. And I think you could also use that. It just doesn't get any better. Like you could say, I'm supposed to feel that it just doesn't get any better than this. And I like the way you repeated that. And then as you're having this experience, you can just talk about the experience with Adriana. It just doesn't get any better. And then she did this and it just doesn't get any better. But I'm supposed to be feeling that about Machu Picchu too. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So we're focusing more on making sort of that comparison. That's not the best word or the parallels of Machu Picchu and her.
Right.
Yeah. God. We could play with the God tricky thing too. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think this will be a shorter version that we're talking about, right? You go from here to the family to the cave ends, and your ending line is basically, how does it get better than this? Boom.
Yeah.
And you might repeat it. And so what I hear Max say is, we got to get that better thought in the beginning somehow, right? We got to get that language so we don't know that it's going to hit us at the end. And what can we figure that out before you start this telling real fast? What if it opened like that? I'm on this train. I'm headed to Machu Picchu, the place. There's nothing better than Machu Picchu.
It's as good as it gets.
Machu Picchu is as good as it gets. Yeah, there you go. And just my suggestion is leave space around that line, because I don't think we'll know that why is he saying this, right? That's my thought for the telling.
So my question for any of you is, how much do I reveal in the beginning, that part in which well, it's not great, it's not good, I'm miserable, whatever the words I choose? Like, how much do you want to know, or do you need to know before I sort of segue over to, I don't know how I'll do that, to her and her home or the cave? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't
right
know.
Away. Right away. Let us know how miserable you are. That's my first thought. Yeah. I'd like to hear from others.
Yeah.
I think not till you get there. Not on the train there. Not on the way there. I think not till you get there. Not till you're actually there. Because on the way there, you should be expecting this to be amazing and awesome. Even though you're miserable, 100%. You should still be expecting it to be awesome because everybody's told you it is. And then you get there and you're like, crap. Like, it's still like,
but I don't think that
awesome
was. But I don't think that's true. I think you were checking your phone on the train.
Yeah.
So my suggestion
But
is,
to Susan's point, though, I was fighting it.
Right.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
that's what
And
this
then
is
I
Killing
just
a
himself.
bit about. So show us that fight and keep going, keep hitting it in the opening.
Yeah, but I
I
think
can't see anything
But then it
because I'm
gets
trying to play
tricky
my
'cause-
phone.
Yeah, no, I don't want to talk this to death, but then it's a tricky thing because the moment I open that door, I've got to let you know about it. I'm either all in with my like, this is going to be amazing. If not, and I'm checking my phone, then I got to let you know. I get there's artful ways to do about it. Maybe I'm not, so I can't do it right in the moment now. But you know what I'm saying? Feels like the gray area is tricky here. You either go all in one way or all the not. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're for this retelling, we're gonna go all in with you telling in the beginning, and you're just gonna show the tension repeatedly. Keep checking your phone to show us that you can't see.
It.
All right.
Yeah.
Boom.
I'm in Machu Picchu. It's December 2015. I am on a train. I'm supposed to be really excited about this. I'm supposed to be like looking forward to this opportunity of a lifetime to see Machu Picchu. This is the land of gods. This is architecture. This is history. It doesn't get any better than this. It really doesn't. And I'm on a train heading up to these mountains. But all I can see is my phone. I mean, I'm looking out the window from time to time, and I know we're going to stop, and I'm going to walk, and I'm eventually going to see all the things you see in photographs. But mostly I'm just checking my phone. I'm waiting for a text. I want someone to text me back, Adriana. But she's not texting back. And I so want to not be worried about that. I want to put my phone aside. I want to put it in my pocket. I want to turn it off. I am headed to Machu Picchu. If there were ever a time to turn your phone off and put it in your bag or your pocket, or maybe even leave it back at your hotel, this would be that time. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity, but my phone is on. It's in my hands and I'm looking out the window and it's stunning scenery. It's absolutely as good as it gets. And I'm looking down. I've seen a text that I've just written to her. Hey, Adriana, how you doing? I had a really good time last night. It was great meeting your family. Let me know if you get this text. Love to hang out. And I'm waiting to hear back from her. Adriana, I'm waiting to hear back from Adriana, but she's not getting back to me. And this train is chugging. And I know at this point that there's absolutely, I am not going to enjoy this opportunity of a lifetime. This chance to see Machu Picchu is gone. I'm fucking miserable. And a few days earlier, I was on another mountain. This was nearer to my hotel to meet this girl that I had just met at a Starbucks. I thought I was going to be alone for New Year's Eve, and we met and we talked and we laughed, and she gave me a book of her poetry, and we ended up texting, and she invited me to hang out with her on New Year's Eve. And I remember thinking it was as good. I remember walking along this path to her home, getting to her home, and it's where she lives with her family. And she's like 30 years old, but in Peru, that's how they do things. Expecting to be alone that night, and it's thinking it just wouldn't get any better than this. It's as good as it gets. It doesn't get any better. And I met her family and her friends, and we ate and we drank and we danced. And I thought it won't get better than this. It can't get better than this. This might be the best night of my life. And she takes my hand and she walks me outside and she says, I asked my family, my mom, my dad, if you could stay over, but they said no. And I said, you asked your parents if I could stay over? Wow, I wasn't expecting that. I went right for the kiss. And it was better than I could have ever wanted. It was every time I thought this night was going to get better, or it was as good as it gets, it just kept getting better. And we kissed. And then she took my hand and she'd say in Spanish, venga aquí, mi amor. And I love that. We'd walk, and then we're in the dark, and it's a few minutes away from where she lives. We walk down this other path, and I'm in the middle of Cusco, Peru, with this pretty Peruvian girl that I met a couple days ago at a Starbucks. And I thought that I was going to be alone in Cusco, but here I am with this girl, Adriana. And then we're at the front of the outside of a cave. And I'm like, what are we doing in front of a cave? And I well, she took my hand and she walked me into the cave. This is like her backyard, you know? This is where she grew up. She knows this area really well. It was all new for me. And I was expecting to kiss her in the cave. And I was expecting to, I knew that would be like as this magical moment. Like it wouldn't, like, and we did kiss, but then she started taking her clothes off. And then she started taking my clothes off. And we spent an hour in that cave. And it was magical. And when we were done, I fucked up my ending. Yeah. That's all I got. I'm all over the place. Sorry, ma'am.
No. That was
my
good.
My brain is frazzled. Sorry.
No, you were right there. You can see how this would work, right?
Yeah.
If you decided to go with this measure.
Starting,
I mean,
yeah.
Right. And then it becomes the talk about the magical moment that you just can't let go. And
yeah,
you know, then that becomes the heart of it. And that's what this framework would be. And it loses some of the other stuff.
Right. I think, though, I'm wondering in this way, obviously, you know, I'm kind of free-forming, so I was all over the place.
Right.
So forgive me for that.
No. That's what this is for.
Yeah. But I don't know how I would, I still feel like what happens after the cave has to come back into play. Like, I don't know how I would end it in the cave and have that first part land at the sort of end without me bringing it back explicitly from wherever, like the last point we are in the cave to somewhere in Machu Picchu. I don't know how I wouldn't talk about that at all and it still land, at least the way it is in this moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think it would take writing out, but I can envision it. And I just think that it's about, you've got to give us a beat on Machu Picchu and say the words, I'm never going to see this girl again.
Oh, that was your feedback that I forgot. Right. I'm never going to see her again. So if I did it that way, let me ask you this.
I don't know where that's coming from.
But so in terms
I think I'm also going to throw out, I think Susan was right. Her instinct was right.
In the beginning, go with
don't introduce Adriana.
Go with the expectation of
yeah.
If I say early on, I'm never going to see her again. You know, so some people might say, well, then when you do meet her, we know where it's going. And so do you feel like it might hurt it, or in other ways, it's good? What do you think?
I think my hope is with this structure that that's the point. People think the story's over and they know everything, but then you keep ramping it up as it gets better and better. And that keeps reinforcing for us, like, how much it hurts, because we know that this creates the irony for us. And so you've got to really be, once you flip, be that character who doesn't know the ending. Go into that moment,
Absolutely.
right?
Yes. This was an interesting experience for me because it's I write, you know, I craft. And so to not have it in front of me and then wing it, I'm cool. I mean, it's all good, but I'm like, I'm
Yeah, it
sure
was
like
hard.
other guests, you're like, fuck, man, I wish I didn't ba 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 ba. You know what I'm saying?
No, it's great. That's awesome. I'm gonna throw out again, like and follow us, and then we're gonna be on Discord. TJ will throw that out. I probably have it in something somewhere. A million people are shooting me private messages. Everybody has enjoyed the show and these stories, so thank you very much. Thank you, everybody in chat. We've got one last story that we're gonna hit tonight, and is somebody gonna talk that up? Did that person get disconnected? I am going to throw it over to Kay.
Yeah, so this part of our show is unique and awesome, where we have one of our normal storytellers select either our guest story or another one of the panel storytellers' story to retell. And this is how we give an example of voice inside of storytelling. So you have two tellers working with the same base information, but because they're two different people, it's going to hit you differently, and you'll see what voice is all about.
Perfect. And the reteller for this time is
never mind.
Going to
a
the
new story.
fuck?
So they just asked that you're not telling a story that you've.
Sorry, y'all.
And the reteller, I'm gonna throw it out, is gonna be me for today. But is there anyone else who's like chomping at the bit, who thinks that they have a line on doing the retelling? Checking. Okay. Give me a second to sort of compose myself and figure out how I'm gonna go about it. Boom, boom, boom.
Dan, while you're composing yourself, I'm just going to say thank you, Noah, for the 99-ish second story. I loved it. I loved how you brought it together. I thought it was a very tight retelling. Keep up the good work on that. And hopefully we're both submitting stories for the contest, which is going to be March 15th. If anybody wants to do the 99-second story contest that we're promoting, just check out some of the links that'll be in the chat, and you can record yourself doing a 99-second story, tag Storyluck on the social media platform of your choice, and share it with friends. And you too could be a winner. And I'm also going to say, Sean, thank you so much for joining us. I loved your story, and I loved how expressively you told it. And I love that you gave us the insight that, like, this really mattered to you, meeting this person and having this moment in time. And what I took away from it was, in society, we're told that we're supposed to care about certain things, like go travel the world, get a good job, put savings in the bank, have a family and a house and kids and a dog. And this is what we're told, what should matter to us in our lives. But it's like this moment in time where you met this person, this was what mattered. Like chasing what other people told you should be important, even when you've got a mountain view in front of you. It was clear that people matter. That was what was important. She was important. So I just loved your story. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. That's good. All right.
So Dan, is it Noah's
Yeah.
story or
No,
is it Sean's?
I'm doing Sean's story. And let me get my notes out. Yeah. am on this train. It's December 2009, something like that. And I'm headed to Machu Picchu. I'm normally not the person who's like super into traveling, but I'm doing it. I've forced myself to be this person, and I'm there. There's people all around, and I pull into the train station, and I head, and I have my ticket all signed up, and I'm going up the mountain. The skyline, the couples, the steps. This place is a place of the gods, and I am strapped to my phone. The only thing I'm thinking about is this thing that I did, and I'm not so sure that I should have done it. It was like this little leap of faith that I took that didn't make any sense. Adriana was a poet. She had this book of poetry. It was her book. And I'm supposed to be on Machu Picchu. And it feels like I'm supposed to be on Machu Picchu with her. But I don't get to make that decision. Because I'm never going to see her again. I never get to see her again. The other night, she had invited me over, and she invited me to meet her family. I am pretty easygoing about inviting people to meet my family. But date number 1, come hang out with my family. I was like, this girl is into me. Bum, 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 bum. And then we're just hanging out, and it's like really good. There's a vibe that's happening. And she does little things. She speaks really great English. But every once in a while, benga aqui. Every once in a while, she speaks great English, but every once in a while, she'll grab my hand to take me someplace rather than tell me where it is. And I say goodbye, and I'm feeling like a stud because I came up to her out of nowhere, and it fucking boom, boom, boom happened. I made an Insta date happen. And she is seeing me walk away, and she turns me around, and I look at her, and she says, I asked my parents if you could spend the night, but they said no. And I never do this, but I am so into this girl that I just smash her with a kiss, and she kisses back. It's soft and it's perfect. And I want it. And she's like, let's keep hanging out. And she takes me down this path, and we're hanging out in this sort of hillside area. And she sneaks me over to this cave. I have no clue where I am. Everything's new. Everything is awesome. And every moment I keep thinking to myself, it doesn't get any better than this. And we take another step, and we're together, and we're holding hands, and we're playing, and it gets better. And I keep saying, it doesn't get any better than this. It's running through my head. But I love people so much more than places. I love that connection. And we're in that cave, and all of a sudden she's taking off my clothes, and I don't do this sort of thing. And I start to mouth, I'm not that kind of guy. I don't do this sort of thing. But as I'm mouthing it, I'm taking her clothes off, and now we're naked, and we're in this cave. And I make a decision that today I'm going to be that sort of person, because it doesn't get any better, but maybe it does. And we're there for hours. And as we're parting ways, I think it doesn't get any better than this, but maybe it does. Thank you. And thus concludes our show. Thank you, everyone, so much for coming out. Thank you for the follows and likes.
Thanks, everyone.
Getting emails. Boom, boom, boom. Has he sent? Is the Discord link been? Yes, the Discord is up there, and also, yeah, the course about ethos and pathos and stuff like that is up there. Please join us. We'll be jumping into the Discord within the next 5 minutes or so. This is the end of our stream. Everybody, can I get everybody on stream? There we go. Say goodbye.
Everyone.
Good night.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
See you next time.